All right, ready.
All right, call this meeting to order. Item A, information. We'll move on to item B, roll call. Chair Seth, I am here. Vice Chair Ned.
Present.
Alder Scannell is not here. Somebody's going to have to step up the jokes in his absence. Corey.
Present.
John.
Present.
Deb is not here. Julia is not here. Cody.
Present.
And Mark.
Present.
All right, move on to, can I move on?
Yes, go ahead.
The approval of the agenda for today. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion by John. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mark. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. All right, agenda approved.
Okay, Chair, just give Julia 1 second to sign in, if you
Great.
would. Just give me
Yep.
1 second. Oh, hey there, Julia. Go ahead and sign in.
Okay, thank you. Hello. Hello. Sorry, it says leave meeting for different meeting.
Uh-oh, here, I'll sign you in.
And so join this one is not available.
Right. So you always have to leave the meeting before you actually physically leave. You have to go in Civic Clerk and go back, and then you're at the main screen in board view, and then you click leave the meeting. So that helps to basically keep everything straight. So, but I signed you in. So hold on
Thank
1
you.
second, Chair. You bet. And now we're on to the minutes, Chair.
All righty, approval of the minutes from our last meeting on May 13th. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Motion by Ned. Is there a second?
Second.
By John. All those in favor of approving the minutes from May?
I have one question. I was just looking at it. No, never mind. Sorry. Approval of minutes was before approval of the agenda last time. So I was looking at the wrong screen there. Okay. Never mind. Ignore me.
We did that on purpose to make sure you're paying attention.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. All right. Minutes approved.
Go ahead, Seth.
And we'll move on then to informational. We've got a pretty quick meeting here today. First item is going date on the resiliency coordinator position. Celestine?
Awesome. So we have posted that position. Hooray. Yay. It is the link that is in your packet is the link to our posting. So if you know people in the community, I say broadly, please share that link with them so that we can have lots and lots of good candidates. And let me just give you a quick update about the funding. So as you know, the Fund for Lake Michigan is funding this position. I won a grant for $180 some thousand. This year, because of coronavirus, we got a very late start with the position. And so looking to hire someone, as soon as possible, highly qualified candidate. This year, for the remainder of the year, the grant that we received, the portion of the grant, will probably go to pay 100% of the position this year because it's part of the year. And then when we come up to spring of 2021, then we will be back on track with 60-40. So 60 Fund for Lake Michigan, 40 Stormwater Utility. And then in 2022, 50-50, 50% Fund for Lake Michigan, 50% Stormwater Utility. This is an update on the funding. Any questions? And this is just informational. There's nothing really to act on. But share widely.
Celestine, you said there was a link within the packet?
Yes, so in the item report, there's a link. Should be. If not, I'll send it to you. It's hard for me to
Yeah, let me
look
see.
back.
That's okay.
So,
I'll
but
pull it up
there
and
should
see.
be an item report attached to this item with
Yeah,
a
there's
link.
no-
No, there wasn't an item report?
There is an item report, but there's no link in it.
Oh, okay.
It says update on resiliency coordinator.
Okay, so I will make sure that I refresh that and send it out again, and I'll amend. So you can have the link.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
I think it would be nice to post the position on our Facebook page.
That would be good. Ned?
I'll get right on that. That's a good idea. That is. Thank you. So should I post that link when Celestine?
Yes, you should.
Okay.
That would be the one. There are a number of other places that we are going to be posting the position, and this is in consultation with Julia and also with Vicki Elkin from the Fund for Lake Michigan. And I had a conversation with our HR manager on Monday about that.
Can you put the link in the chat box? Is that allowed?
I am not on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
The Zoom computer is across the room. So, but I can certainly, it's, yeah. It's not under government jobs thing. It is actually. It should be. Maybe she'll be sitting in here with me, so maybe she can put it up there. That's really weird about that. Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's all I have.
Great, very exciting. Moving on to item 2 of informational, are there any updates from subcommittees? Groups?
You have to unmute yourself, John.
All right, I can speak to what we've been doing with regard on the Clean Energy Task Force and the climate action plan that we're working on. I've been working with Celestine for a while to gather a lot of the kilowatt hour and therm data for the city of Green Bay. And we have, I would say we're nearing the majority or the bulk of that information. And I've got a undergraduate student working with me this summer. We're to help compile that. He's already started doing some of that. And right now we're just working to gather the gasoline and diesel and CNG for the city-owned vehicles. I think once we have that, we could probably start calculating a footprint for the city. And if you remember back when Seth gave us the clean energy toolkit, as part of that, this is really kind of step one if we want to develop a climate action plan, is to sort of baseline what our carbon is for the city of Green Bay. So that's what this information is doing. We have a municipal carbon calculator that we're using, and the idea is before the end of the summer, we'll have that total carbon footprint calculated, and then we can begin sort of the next steps. And with a climate action plan, this is really, this is step one. The hard work begins after that. Once you know what your carbon footprint is now we've got to figure out a strategy to bring that down to zero. And I think, what was our target? Is it 2050 or 2040? I'm trying to remember. 50. So we've got to come up with, as a city, a strategy that's going to take all of our carbon down to where we're net zero. This is the start. We're working on it, and hopefully we'll have that carbon footprint figured out by the end of the summer.
Excellent.
Awesome. Thank you, John.
And then keeping with the clean energy updates here, our clean energy worked the last couple months off just with everything happening in the world, but we will be resuming meeting via Zoom next Tuesday. So some folks in the community and now some folks from the school district and the county who are also similar goals will be joining us. So that'll be exciting. Other updates from subcommittees, work groups, other projects?
It's not so much of an update, but it's thinking about, thinking about water resources and green infrastructure moving forward. It would be nice to get this committee's input because there's a lot of ways to approach this potentially. And a lot of them will take work and probably outside resources to make them happen. So, and I'm thinking, so for example, so some of the ideas working over the last year, we do have some graduate assistant work help, but that really can only help so much in general. So thinking about like whether we would want, and I don't think it's hard to go after all of them is my point, I guess, at once. So some just ideas that have come up through the last year and a half, like a green streets and alleys plan, basically. So we would, could potentially go out for a grant to hire a consultant that would really look at the policies and procedures within the city and how you make that work, do an analysis and then kind of come up with a plan on how to actually implement that, a program like that. A demonstration green alley project. I think it could be important for the city to have a demonstration of something green infrastructure to as a win, and it could be that's more of a short term. A general overall city green infrastructure plan. So there's like elements that we've been kind of working on here and there that keep arising that I think would potentially fit under a kind of plan like that. But actually developing a plan is going to take a lot more of an in-depth process community-wide to do it with. So thinking like trees, for example, the pollinator fits in there. Also, there's stormwater. I mean, so there's a lot of moving pieces. So that would take, or we could just focus on one of those really specific areas for right now. Or there's also thinking about greening and flood resilience in some of the hot spots in the city. And that could be its own huge big picture thought project. Like the West Side Slough is in an economically disadvantaged area and it's a flooded hotspot. There's definitely some potential to reimagine that whole area in terms of a large scale flood mitigation resilience project. So those are like just some of the ideas, and I'm just wondering what other people's thoughts are besides mine on directions that we might want to go, or I can help take work on a grant or something with.
Julia, with the West Side Slough, is that near Seymour Park?
It's from what someone else could answer that is.
Yes, that is correct. This West Side Slough goes right through Seymour Park, kind of behind some houses, and then I believe it terminates very near Station 3, which is on Shawano.
Great. Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential with Seymour Park, and there's a group that's working on trying to make kind of a large food forest there as well. So I think that would be a really cool spot to focus on. If you're looking for like us to give you our feedback on where to look, no, you're not.
I think we know where to find those places. I'm wondering if that's a huge endeavor forward. So which directions maybe does this committee feel like would be good ones to go on? Like a green infrastructure plan for the whole city that includes lots of different things like trees and stormwater and pollinator habitat, or a demonstration project or a specific specific program area like green streets and alleys. So every time that gets put in, anytime there's like a road reconstruction or alleyway reconstruction, there's procedures and met place to actually green it and put in green infrastructure. Like one specific program example, or focusing on a whole neighborhood regional approach for a specific issue like flooding. All kind of different ways to go about doing some similar things, but really different projects that are large scale. So what would people like to see, or what do you think is most important for this city?
Can I just ask which thing do you think would help the most with flood mitigation? Sorry, it's not very quiet here.
Oh no, I'm laughing because yeah. They're all really interesting and important to me, but flood mitigation, that would definitely be focusing on specific areas of the city. Green infrastructure is much broader than just flood mitigation. So that would be sources into understanding the flooding issues there, and then working with those communities and neighborhoods specifically to address the problem. And resources, because they are really infrastructure. It's going to be some seriously large scale infrastructure that would need to be thought through. So
I don't have necessarily an answer to your question as to what's most important, but as we're thinking about some of these things, they may come into our strategy at carbon reduction, especially if we're looking at the planting of additional trees and things like that. So just something to keep in mind as we're picking our projects too. We might be able to help in multiple areas.
yeah, John, actually you bring up something I think is really important. It's a little off green infrastructure, but I had also on my list like a citywide resilience or sustainability plan. I think could be really important because a lot of this stuff does overlap. I just thought I'd see what people think. This is kind of effort in general, but I feel like it would be important for us to bring all these pieces together with the resilience coordinator into a citywide plan that the city could adopt. Anyway, yeah, other thoughts. Like I said, I think all these things are really important, so it's really hard. I just would like other people's skins, really, or perspectives.
So I have quite a bit of interest in really just having the city, at least within our parkways and really ideally throughout the city, but to kind of identify, well, like we talked about at the last meeting with the tree cover canopy, where we're at currently with that, but as well as the pollinator corridors and identifying like areas, both the wildlife sanctuary and Bear Creek Greenway are approximately over 500 acres each. It's a lot of area to maintain. And I think it would be ideal. A lot of those areas have buckthorn and things to try and identify like what's valuable and what do we want to preserve. Because it really is a lot of our identity as a city, I think, is our native habitats and things. So I think I would be interested in the city as a whole looking at maybe just habitat, calling it that, because I guess in essence, that's what it becomes. So I guess that's my 2 cents.
Okay, it sounds to me more in the direction of like a green infrastructure plan overall and identifying specific goals of it, including habitat goals, tree, some stormwater goals too. Okay. Who else, please?
Yeah, I think that I guess I don't entirely know what like specifics would look like, but I mean, anything with this plan that can really help neighborhoods and communities that are like lower income, people of color, really have like an equity component to it to help the folks that are dealing with this issue that don't necessarily have the means to address it. So really centering that in whatever the goals are, I think would be a top priority.
I hear in that another kind of towards a green infrastructure plan that's actually one of the like overarching priorities of how to target where green infrastructure goes. Okay. Deb, did you have something?
Sure. Hi. Is it possible to tell what the city's going to go forward on, and if they're going to go forward in a certain area, maybe your group could take it in an area that is on the waiting list or is on the back burner? I don't know if it's easy to tell what the city is about to move on, but sort of balance it out if you can. They all sound fantastic. They all sound really good and really meaningful.
Well, I think that this is probably a good time for us to, during our next meeting, schedule a conversation with our consultant, JB Hines from Birchline Planning, who is working on the Green Infrastructure Code audit. And while that isn't a definitive direction for the city, but I think to your good question, Deb, I think it's important for the committee to know exactly where she's going with things. And actually, it's going very well. We have some opportunities, and I think we have some things that we are currently doing well. And of course, once the resiliency coordinator comes on, what will be very important for that person to do is to actually get projects in the ground, so that, quite frankly, so that the value of the position is well known. So, yeah, if that hopefully that answers your question, Deb.
Mark, Cody, I don't know. I've never met you in person, but nice to meet you through Zoom.
So I guess maybe it would help if I give you just a small, quick introduction. I work for Festival Foods, so I'm in the private sector, right? I work for a business. And I'd say from this perspective that I have, working in the private sector, having resources available for businesses and I think would be helpful. Even if it's just like guidance type things. I mean, it's really small and seems pretty simple to be able to do.
Mark, what do you care about at all? All of it. Yeah, but you've lived here for a long time, so.
What do I care about? There's a lot of things I care about, Julia.
Well, what do you think would be a good way? Any thoughts? And you're on the Water Resources Group, technically. So.
Oh, am I? Okay. Yeah, not at the moment. Nothing that really comes to mind right off the bat. I'm just sorry. I was dealing with something else for a moment there, and just kind of lost my train of thought as I was taking care of work business at the same time. It's the downside of working at home. I have two computers going at the same time, so let me think on it and I'll let you know. Okay, that's the best I can say.
Okay, and sorry, Ned, I'm calling people out here, but I do. You've been really engaged. What do you think? You have, because I know Ned. At least you have to unmute yourself, so I'll squeeze in something comment. But you love that. You're really engaged in the pollinator corridor habitat stuff and working with the city right now. But I also know that you've had students who have been affected by those flooding events too, and I think that is pretty. It's really big impact to the community. So.
Yeah, I'm, as far as like a green infrastructure focus, I think that's obviously a huge thing to take on and a wonderful thing to take on. We have a lot of flooding in our neighborhood. I guess there's the pollinator corridor that goes along with green infrastructure. I think it all works together pretty well. So I'm not sure that I fully understood the question of what kind of guidance you were looking for from us So could you maybe rephrase it for me? I'm feeling maybe I'm just a little slow today, Julia.
Basically, there's a lot of different try to approach some green infrastructure projects, ideas, and starting to try to figure out how to get green infrastructure implemented in this city. So, and I was looking for, we have some things brainstormed, but they're all very different. So like a demonstration project is an in the ground project that demonstrates to the community that it works, what it is. For example, like a green alley. If we ripped up the concrete and put in permeable pavement and then lined it with bioswales or bioretention or something like that, maybe green walls even, I don't know. There's like, that's a tangible, like one project thing. Then you have like, what if we could hire a consultant to really look at procedures and how the city redoes streets and really dive into the details about what it would take to do a green streets and alleys policy program here. So moving forward, when street reconstruction comes up, like they follow those guidelines and make those decisions on how to incorporate those things into the construction of a new street moving forward. Another one is like just general wide green infrastructure plan of setting goals for the city in terms of like what kind of green infrastructure we would really like to see here, where to put it, and do some like baseline analysis stuff too.
What do you think would be manageable? Like, could any of those get done this year? Like, what would be the fastest one to do?
The fastest one to do is an actual demonstration project, but so that would, if we had funding for it right away.
Okay. Do you
I think funding, like finding the grant first, and is going to be, but and then it would take time to apply for a grant. But in general, like you can do construction and design one practice a lot quicker than you can doing a whole program analysis, or the green infrastructure plan is like a planning process, you know?
Yeah. I think the demo idea that would be my top choice. Kind of like we've done the solar panels now, or we're doing them, with light and fire stations. And we're also, like, the audit is still also going on. And, we also have kind of this grand goal of 100% clean energy, but maybe we need to dive into that more and a little bit more. But at least people can see, oh yeah, this group is working on doing something, and then there's something tangible while we're doing some of that headier work. So that's what I would vote for. I would say like a demonstration project where people can actually see what is a bioswale, what does green alley look like? And maybe those ideas, once they're more tangible, they can catch on a little better. That would be my vote.
Thanks, Ned. I appreciate that.
So Julia, you give me a little time and I actually come up with ideas. A lot of thoughts there. And I do like the idea of a demonstration project. I think they're great. Living on the west side, one of the ideas that I've always been curious about, I know Milwaukee's done it, is daylighting of streams. Have we ever has Green Bay ever looked at that? I live near west side of Green Bay has Beaver Dam Creek, which is, a portion of it is open, and then it goes from culverts and storm sewer to open creek to storm sewer to culverts and I frankly don't know where it begins and where it ends because you can't trace the whole thing. And it certainly acts in certain parts of the city really well as a buffer for flooding. I mean, near whatever, Kennedy School, MacArthur School, can't remember which one it is, on the west side there, it overtops its banks fairly regularly, and there's a small floodplain there, and it does a great job of doing that. But daylighting something like that is a project I think that would really have a visual impact and also a potentially flood control impact on that part of the city. And for me, when Ned talks about pollinator corridors, I like the idea, generally speaking, of corridors in general for recreational purposes. I would love to see more connectivity in the city of Green Bay in general of natural areas, recreational paths, pollinator corridors, trying to find a way to connect those together, because I think that brings, that adds a whole social dimension that we don't necessarily see with some of the other, with strictly a flood control project necessarily. It is there, but it's not as visible. It doesn't tie people together as much. So I think that's something that we really need to look at overall in the city.
Thank you.
And touching back on Seth's point, I think either here in the Astor East River area where it floods a lot, or over at Seymour Park. I think if we're looking at like more of a low income, more diverse neighborhood, the Seymour Park area would definitely be a great place to do one that would kind of touch a lot of these goals that we have as a commission.
I just want to make you aware, in case you're not, we do have some projects going on right now with the parks that are related to the flooding and I guess stormwater management. So for instance, we are working with a consultant on an overall stormwater management plan for Bay Beach, which we're going to be implementing in phases. So that soon will be a project that we can share with the community. As well as at Colburn and Navarino Parks, we're doing some like swales and bioretention areas and things. So we could maybe focus on trying to highlight those areas in the parks and maybe with some signage or things like that, or maybe we have a map that is interactive and we can have on our website or something. But those are some ideas, I guess, and of projects that we are planning to do. They're already funded, that type of thing. So there is some of that happening on city property now, or soon.
Great. Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Well, if those are going to be starting, and you could add signage and education like you could with the demonstration that maybe Ned and Julia and Mark are leaning toward, that could be kind of a win-win. You could dovetail with it and make it even bigger or better, or coordinate with it and make it a more long-reaching project, educational, always keeping the educational side in mind, so you wouldn't have to do a separate demo. I don't know, I'm having trouble finding how the demo, I see the educational side, but is that going to be a connected part of the reclamation of the city in a way, Is that going to be a valuable part of the big picture, or is it just going to be a demo? Maybe you could explain more about that.
Well, I've JB Hines, who's doing our code audit, she could probably talk a lot more about that too. But from what I've heard, really, and I've just heard through this group and Celestine, demonstration projects it's a lot about the education for everybody. It could be for, education for the rest of the city staff to see, like people who are, to show that these well, this region in particularly, we just don't have, it's not visible. So people don't even know what it is. So it's like, it would be a really important first step just in generally to have it visible to the public, just and the community in general, to start to get familiar with these types of practices. But it's also for, potentially skeptics out there or challengers who, and then to actually show that this is a vision of what it could be and it's working kind of stuff too. So I think it does serve. One of the biggest parts is that educational. That's really one of the main parts, is the education about this. And a lot of communities could use that, especially like in an area like ours where there isn't a lot, people don't understand what it is, and it's like a new kind of concept. There's city staff that don't know what it is. They've never really seen it. Public Works is very familiar with this stuff, but and Parks has been putting stuff in, so you're more familiar with it. So, but there's other parts of the just in the municipality that it could be a good education tool for. especially if it was at a, public facility too. I like the idea though, working with Corey and seeing where we can leverage things that are already going. Well, I've taken a lot of time, so I thank you very much for all your input.
Great, thank you, Julia. Are there other subcommittee or project work group updates before we move on to the last informational item?
Just a couple
hold on
quick
1 second,
updates. Will Peters did send our letter out that Celestine fine-tuned. And so that's gone out to all the neighborhoods. And then the neighborhoods will decide how they're going to send it out from there, Facebook or newsletter or email. So hopefully some of you will see it if you haven't seen it already. And then Cody and John and I are going to resume the coffee talks in July 21st. We have some new businesses, trying to make it more diverse. And there's about 60 different businesses and organizations that are invited. So yeah.
Great.
Deb, are you gonna track somehow, like what neighborhoods send it how, or so we can know?
Which neighborhoods send it out? Is that what you said?
Yes, and how?
I will talk to Will about that and see if I can do that. Yeah. And how? Sure. Yeah. Some are more fine-tuned and more efficient than others, whether it's they've been doing it for a longer period of time or who's in charge, And like I know Oak Grove neighborhood gets a hard copy of what's going on in their neighborhood. And, I haven't gotten that in my neighborhood for years. I have no idea what's going on in my neighborhood. Whatever. So I could talk to Will about that. He kind of felt like it's sort of out of his hands. He sent it out and it's up to the rest of those people. But there, maybe I could talk to Dan Thino, or I don't know if there's a president of the neighborhoods who coordinates all the neighborhoods. I'm not sure. I will look into it.
I think it was, but it might be somebody else now, but I'm sure Will would know.
I'll speak try to be quick. The Pollinator Corridor Group, we will be getting together, I think, within the next week online to talk about like the Bee City thing that we had talked about a couple months ago. And maybe, I believe Corey will try to make it work so that Corey can be there as well to give us some insight from Parks and see how we can work together with Parks Department. And a lot of what Corey was talking about just now, that would be great information to share with the corridor group, because a lot of those bioswales and things like that, if they're using native plants, then they're automatically part of the corridor then. So that'd be perfect. And then for clean energy, I think John covered a lot. And I guess I've been meeting with some county supervisors and Casey. Casey's been doing a great job reaching out to the county folks for helping them create their own clean energy goals, and possibly a sustainability commission at the county level as well. So keep an eye out for that. Hopefully within the next month, things will get rolling level, and hopefully we can. They're looking to us as to how to set things up. So we should all feel proud and give ourselves back, because we've really taken a lead in the area. So that's that.
Yeah, and I know that I was at a planning and development committee meeting a month ago, and that was one of the topics from especially from some of the new county board supervisors, about having a county sustainability commission. As according to that committee at that time, I volunteered us, or to be a connection at least to this commission as well, if they want more information. So there's
good, because
it's great.
We've also volunteered you via Zoom meeting to be the county employee. So
Oh,
glad to hear that.
great.
Excellent. Any other updates from folks? Great. We'll move on to the last informational item, just the update on the Great Lakes Champions Code Audit.
Okay, so we have been plugging along here with the code audit. As you know, we had a community scoping workshop in what a friend of mine calls affectionately the before times, which was very good. And then we've had a number of meetings, Zoom meetings with staff and JB Hines, our consultant from Birchline Planning. So I'll just go through some of the things that we have discussed. First of all, she has really looked at our zoning code and finds it to be in very good order. So that's a positive. Some areas of improvement really have to do with our erosion control. Ordinance seems to be in a couple of places and probably needs to be streamlined and tightened. In terms of our stormwater ordinance, perhaps we need to clarify that the threshold for redevelopment. We also need to adjust our landscaping standards. Corey, I think we probably need to bring you in. I think I did connect you though with JB, if I'm not mistaken. There's so many emails. I think I had given her your email address, just so that when we're talking about landscaping standards, it really is, our landscaping standards in our code really call for a tree here, a bush there, some plants there, right? As opposed to thinking about landscaping as a comprehensive green infrastructure living entity, right? So that the landscaping is doing the work as it's sitting there, not that it's just looking pretty. It can look pretty, but can also do work. So that's something that we're going to be working on. Some considerations to look at our stormwater utility fee, our turf grass, basically considering reducing or prohibiting turf grass in ESAs. And let me go to, whoops. I'll go to, yes, go to another meeting that we had. Okay. So, really wanting to make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of what green infrastructure is, bioretention, disconnection of impervious surface, permeable surfacing, and rainwater harvesting. So, I mean, this has been really great. I think that, some of the challenges that we really have too in the city of Green Bay really are around what contractors and people who are designing, who are private entities who design spaces, and what they understand about our code and how we can communicate to them effectively how they can implement green infrastructure. So that's going to be another area of challenge for us. But, I think in many ways a good opportunity, simply because some of those interactions frustrate people here at City Hall, and I know that they frustrate members of the contracting community. So clarity, I think, is the way that we're going to go. JB will be much better explained than I am. But I think it's been very helpful and fruitful. And as I said, she's really plugging away and should be ready to make some recommendations, certainly before the summer's out. And that's all I've got.
I believe the ESA is environmentally sensitive area.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. So like a wet or special kind of wildlife area, right? I mean,
we have a lot of environmentally sensitive areas.
Yeah. environmentally sensitive area plus slow plus.
Cool. Any other questions on the code audit or anything else to raise before we adjourn?
Hold on 1 second, Seth. Okay.
All right. Well, hearing no other questions, we'll move on to item F, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn? So moved by Mark. Is there a second? Second by John. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. All right, adjourned. I think this was our fastest meeting ever.
Thanks,
I will
everyone.
add, now that we're adjourned, that I did officiate a wedding this weekend. So I